Forests burned, the lakes and rivers dried up, and the oceans swelled. Then came a plague, and fever spread across the globe. Families died, violence reigned, and man killed man. Next came Wicked, who were looking for an answer, and then they found the perfect boy. The boy's name was Thomas, and Thomas built a maze. Now there are secrets, there are lies, and there are loyalties history could never have foreseen. This is the story of that boy Thomas and how he built a maze only he could tear down. Hi guys, it's Jasmine, and I read for my advanced sci-fi book talk The Fever Code by James Dashner. And The Fever Code is the fifth book in the Maze Runner series. It is the second part of the prequel to the original Maze Runner series, also by James Dashner. And it is set in a dystopian future where the world is ravaged by the solar flares and this disease called the flare, which basically turns whichever human is infected with it into a rabid, vicious, killing machine. So they're basically just these shells of their former selves, and it gets pretty crazy because it attacks the mind, and they have this point where they call it gone, and basically it means they've literally fallen off the wagon and there's no way to save them, like at all. Their humanity is just gone. But in this world, where there's this disease and this terror, basically, there's also an organization called WICKED. And WICKED is an acronym, and it stands for World and Catastrophe Kill Zone Experiment Department. In one of their facilities is where we first meet our main character, Thomas, who at the time when the book starts, he's about the age of 5. And Thomas, when he first gets to the facility, he basically is isolated. He doesn't have any other friends in the facility. He knows that there are other children in the facility, but he doesn't really get to see them. He sees them in passing, maybe once or twice in a couple of incidents. But pretty much all he sees are the doctors and scientists and the teachers that Wicked assigns to him to help with his experimentation. About 3 years after staying at this facility, Wicked decides that Thomas probably actually needs a friend, so he finally gets to meet Teresa, who was a young girl, also isolated by Wicked. So when they finally meet, the meeting's really awkward, as most first meetings usually are, and then as they meet more and more, they start to talk more, they become more comfortable with each other. And they start talking about Wicked, basically, because what else is there to talk about? So one night, they find out that their doors aren't locked, the doors to their room, that they were actually never locked. And they decide, hey, why don't we just explore the compound tonight? So when they figure this out, the same night, this kid, Newt, appears at both of their doors and basically says, hey guys, come with me. I want you to meet my friends, which they find really suspicious because they just found out that their doors were unlocked, so how did this kid know? But that's another subject. So they go and they meet Newt's friends in this storage closet. And it's just these two other boys named Albie and Minho. And they both start talking, and they all just become really good friends. So every night, Thomas and Teresa, they leave their rooms, go to the storage closet where they all meet up, and they'll go and they'll explore the compound, or they'll just talk and eat and just kind of chill. But one night, when they go to explore the compound, Albie, Minho, and Newt take them outside of the compound. And Wicket doesn't really like that, so there are consequences that happen accordingly, basically to scare the children. And then they separate them again. And they stay separated from their friends for about a year. And while they're separated from their friends, Wicket decides to tell them basically that they have a new project for Thomas and Teresa, and that project is the big experiment that Wicket brought all of these children here for in the first place, and it is to build the maze. The maze is, as I said before, it's Wicked's main experiment, and basically it's this controlled environment where there will be these creatures called grievers, and these the all of the kids that were brought into the facility will be sent into the maze, well, the center of the maze, and they will just have to survive. That's the main part of this. And while they're surviving, Wicked is going to monitor their brain activity, basically their responses to things that happen, things that go on in the maze. And they will just keep sending up kids. First, they'll send them up in this big group, and then I think it's every month they send up another kid until they run out of kids, basically. So they're doing this, and it's two experiments at the same time. There's one with Group A, which is Teresa and Thomas's group. It's mostly, well, all boys except for Teresa. And then there's Group B, which is all girls except for this one kid named Eris. So, right after they're commissioned to build the maze, Thomas and Teresa meet up with their friends again, and Minho tells them that he wants to escape the Wicked facility, and he and this other kid named Gally came up with a plan to escape. His plan to escape doesn't really go as planned, and he gets caught, and he has to face the consequences as well as his friends. So we get to see that, and that kind of makes us a little shady about Wicked, but that's because they were shady in the first place. We just kind of forgot about it because, the kids were having fun. So after that, pretty much a couple of months, maybe, the maze is finished, and the first batch of kids get sent into the maze. Little did Thomas and Teresa know that those kids were going to have their memories wiped before they got sent to the maze. So they're going in there with basically no idea about the outside world. They just know that that's where they are. They don't really know how to do anything besides, the basic motor functions, talking, walking, and all that. But Thomas is still allowed to watch them as they go up into the maze. He sees his friends basically struggling to survive in this place, and he's faced with a couple of tough decisions, considering that, well, there are moral decisions that go along with it, because he's like, I just sent them in there. And then there's the fact that there's a lot going on in the Wicked compound right now. But I'm not going to tell you more about that because that would be giving away things, and I don't want to give away anything. But all in all, that's the story. And our main characters, as I said before, we have Thomas, who is our main protagonist. He is very kind of confused about a lot of the things that go on in the Wicked facility. He doesn't seem to know much besides what Wicked tells him. He doesn't really want to explore more than what Wicked tells him, really, until he meets his friends and he starts to worry about them, because basically it's not about him anymore. So there's that. He's a dynamic character because when he first got there, he just kind of wanted to care about himself, and then Wicked basically started training him, and he was like, okay, well, it's not that bad here. But as he got older, he basically was thinking to himself, okay, what the heck is going on? This isn't right. He's also an explicit character because the story is in his point of the view, like in his point of view, like 99% of the time. So we get to see what he's thinking, how he feels. So that's pretty much what James Dashner was trying to portray to us is Thomas's feelings. So that's why he's an explicit character, because we get like everything he thinks. There's Teresa, who is also a dynamic character because when she was younger, she was kind of against Wicked, or she seemed like she was more against Wicked, at least more against it than Thomas was. But as she gets older, she seems to be more compliant. And then another one of our main characters, I grouped them all together, is just Wicked in general. I count them as the antagonist because, well, what they're doing isn't necessarily right. As you get further in the book, you'll understand why I wrote them down as an antagonist, because I hated them in the original series and I hate them even more now. So there's that. And they're also the trope, one of the trope characters, because in pretty much every like virus outbreak type deal, there's the company that started it all and basically messed up everything. So there's that. The themes I have for the story is that is a cure really worth our morals? Because there are a lot of different ethical type things that pop up in the story where Thomas is really wondering, is this really the right thing to do? Mm, the other thing that ties in with that is there a solution to any problem really worth our morals? Because once again, there's this ethical issue that pops up in Thomas's mind, even from when he was younger, but he didn't really think about it when he was younger because he was like, what, 5? So, and then there's just because everyone says it's for a greater good, is it really? And we get into that more at the end of the book where there's this big situation going on in the last maybe 10 chapters where Thomas is just thinking to himself, okay, we're going to do this, but should we really? So that seems to be a very prominent thing in the story. One of the pertinent life things that was going on in the book, I personally thought it was like the same thing with vaccines because a lot of people were like, okay, yeah, vaccines are great. This is basically this is how we're gonna cure the world, which is kind of how the people in Wicked feel about it. They're like, yeah, if we do this, we'll find the cure. Everybody will be fine. No big deal. And then there were the kids who were like, okay, but is this really necessary? Do we really have to do this? Basically, the world is a mess anyway. How is this gonna really change anything? So there's that. I personally love this book. And the reason I love this book is because A, I've read the Maze Runner series. I love the Maze Runner series. And I love the characters. I love the way James Dashner writes because it seems everything is moving very quickly in the story. I personally hate really slow stories. This story spans over 12 years and it is no bigger than this. So, that's a plus because the story could be like 2 Harry Potter novels put into one, and that would suck. There's the fact that there's so much adventure and just suspense. There are a couple of plot twists that I did not expect at all. And as I said before, I've seen the characters, I saw them before he started writing the prequel series, and getting to see their backstories is really important to me. Now, if you haven't read the Maze Runner series, then you're probably wondering, why the heck should I read this? What's the point? I recommend it to you guys because if you've read the Gone series by Michael Grant, there's a lot of things that tie into that basically with the whole, well, the Gone series was different, but there's like this fight for survival between a lot of these kids, and it's the same thing if you've read the Hunger Games series or the Divergent series or Unwind by Neil Shusterman, which was a really great series as well. And if you like post apocalyptic virus outbreak movies, you should also read the story because that's basically what it's about. So, once again, I love this book and I hope you will too. That's it for my book talk about The Fever Code by James Dashner. Have a nice day.